Hey guys, how you guys doing? Thank you so much for joining my channel for Women Supporting Women Wednesdays. We will be here every Wednesday at 9:15 to do a live with a special guest. And I'm trying to get her on now. Her name is Aleesha, and her show and her book is all about tell somebody. So let me try to get her on. See what's going on with this account. Hey Jordan. Let's see what's going on. Make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get notifications whenever I go live. There we go. How you doing? Hold on. There we go. How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So like my
Yes.
computer regular, like the audio's kind of like far back. And I saw when we did our last interview, when me and you were talking, they could hear your voice. Your voice was real clear on your cell phone. So I tried to use a microphone. All I had was my daughter's PlayStation headset. And at first I thought it was gonna be professional, but now that I'm looking at the video, I'm like, I don't know, but
You can take it off if you want to. It's whatever you want to do, whatever you
no,
feel
I want the
comfortable
people
with.
to be able to hear me though.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
I got you. You look beautiful as always.
Thank you. You too. You too.
Thank you so much for joining me for Women Supporting Women Wednesdays. I wanted to highlight you. You have an amazing story. And, me and you have a lot of similarities when it comes to, like our trauma and the things we've survived. So just tell everybody, this is Aleesha, but I want you to introduce yourself and tell everybody about your story. You can, include anything that you want, but whatever you want to talk about. Look,
Okay.
you got your cup. Yes.
See, there we go. It's another thing I didn't know if that was professional to put up on the screen, but all
Listen,
right.
look, it's women. Look, it's 9:15. Look, the kids are going to bed. Listen, this is all about grown folks stuff, okay?
Girl, 6:15 over here in California. My
I
kids
keep
eating dinner
forgetting.
right now.
Yes, I keep forgetting. I got to remember you in LA.
Yeah. But yeah, so thank you for having me. I'm a survivor of child abuse, and I just love being able to talk about it, which is like really taboo. You know, a lot of people don't like talking about things like that, especially when they have that what happens in this house stays in this house, and you don't tell on your family, or threats like if you tell, like someone will go to jail, someone will die, you'll get
Right.
taken away. So now as an adult, it just feels so good and empowering to just do interview after interview, women's conference, school assemblies, like everything. It just feels so good. So thank you for having this platform, and even helping just bring awareness to it, because there's so many people that it happens to and you just have no idea. But yes, so first I will start off by saying I am mixed. I am half white, half black. My dad's family comes from the South, from Louisiana, and my mother's family is Dutch. They come from Holland.
Wow.
Growing up, my grandfather and the generations before him, I guess they were racist. They didn't like black people. So when my grandfather found out that my mother was pregnant with me, he actually cried and told her to get an abortion, told her that she'd be stupid for having a baby with a black person. But, he said the N word. Okay.
Right.
So, I don't know if it's the fact that she knew that her dad didn't like it, or what, that makes you want to just, but her and my dad stayed together. They had me, and the rest kind of went from there. My parents never taught me about anything, not my body, not about God, not about, friends, not about lies, secrets. Like they just didn't teach me
Right.
anything. Like I grew up in my room playing Barbies by myself, and I don't remember anything about my parents. And that's why my daughter says that, we were just talking, she tries to make it seem like I'm embarrassing, or like, because I'm always trying to talk to her and
Right.
tell her about things.
Yes.
And I always tell her, like, look, girl, my mom and dad sent me in the world with not a lick of knowledge.
Right.
Okay. They didn't teach
Right.
me nothing. So I
Right.
had to learn so many things, so many bad things from bad people.
Right.
So I want to be able to just school you every second of the
Yes.
day. When I think of a lesson or something that I could give you, I just want to tell it to you just so that you'll know,
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah. So growing up, my grandparents, my mother's parents, were the babysitters because that's who we lived next to. We lived about 5 minutes away from my grandfather. Not
Okay.
only that, my grandfather was an insurance agent, and my mom and her sister were his secretaries.
Okay.
So they worked together. So we were
Right.
like a real tight-knit family.
Right.
My grandparents' house was the house that I went to when I needed to be babysat, when school was out or there was a
Right.
vacation or my mom and dad wanted to go on a date or just
Right.
anything, like that's where I was at. And um it started as young as I can remember. And when I was just thinking about it, it's just kind of crazy because my mom recently moved to Hawaii and she left me a whole bunch of pictures of myself when I was little.
Wow.
And I don't even remember a lot of them. And we were talking about that, how survivors of child abuse
Right.
want to block out what
Yep.
happened to them as a child, but you
Yep.
can't just pick and choose what you block out. So you end
Right.
up blocking out your whole childhood. So
Right.
here I am seeing pictures of, me at Disney World, me on
Right.
like a birthday party,
Right.
me having friends sleeping over. And it's like I'm looking at me smiling in these pictures, having fun,
Right.
but I don't have any recollection of any of that. And it's
Wow.
so weird to see that. When I was younger, my grandfather started off with the tickle game. He used to tickle me under my arms, tickle me under my feet, just like, people do. And I hated it because he would hold my feet. And, that's like the worst feeling when you can't like get loose from somebody. And eventually he started tickling me in my private areas. And I never said anything because I never knew it was wrong. And so once he saw that, I had no knowledge of it, it was just a go from there. And yes, I guess when my grandmother would go for her runs in the morning, when she would go out grocery shopping or, whatever errands, I was young. I don't even remember what she
Right.
was doing.
Right.
I just know that she was gone a lot. And during these times, he would take me into a room, his bedroom or his study. He would close and lock the door, and he would show me pornographic magazines. He told me one day, come here, I found this in a dumpster, by my house. Come look at the pictures with me. And I was, 6, 7 years old. I didn't really understand. And he's like, people who love each other, they do these kind of things, so can we do these? And of course, it's like, well, yeah, you're my grandfather. I
Right.
love you,
Right.
like, why, if that's what people do, then that's what people do. So I learned that from him. So I did some things with him, and it felt nasty and disgusting
Yeah.
and wrong. He did tell me, keep it a secret. This is between us. And I
Right.
kept it a secret for a long, long time. And one day I just couldn't take it anymore. I was actually in the car with my aunt, and we were actually on our way on a family vacation to one of his lake houses. So all the family was going to meet up, but I was in the car with her, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I was 6 years old, and I was just like, is it okay for people to touch you in your private areas? And
Oh
she
my
turned
God.
around, while she was driving, and she was like, no, like, why would you say something like that? And I was just like, because your dad, he touches me there and I don't know what to do. And she was like, oh no. She was like, that's wrong. People don't do that.
Right.
So when we get to the lake house, we're going to talk about it. The lake house was still like a 3-hour drive away. So for those whole 3 hours, I was just like, not knowing what was going on. Here I'm
Right.
6 years old. I told my
Right.
grandfather's secret. So we
Right.
go to the lake house, and long story short, when we get there, I was so scared as a 6-year-old. I ran upstairs, I hid under some covers, and my aunt took my mother and her other sister. So it's 3 girls, and they took their dad and they started walking down the hill. So I was so scared. I knew that, they were going to tell them what happened. So I'm sitting there waiting for them to come back. And when they come back, I'm expecting someone to be angry, someone to be
Right.
mad, someone to yell at me, even my grandfather, to give me like a look or something, or my mother to take me to the side in another room and say anything. Like, I was so many emotions as a 6-year-old, and they came in and nothing. They were smiling, they were laughing, they were talking with each other like nothing went on. Everyone sat down at the dinner table, including my father and my grandmother and my younger brother and me, and nobody, nothing. Like, even my grandfather smiled at me. I didn't know what to think. And we stayed there for 3 or 4 days.
Oh my
And
God.
when I got home, my mother pulled me to the side away from my father, and she said, listen, me and your aunt, well, she's like, first of all, your Aunt Linda told me what happened to you. We confronted my dad. He admitted to doing it. He said that the devil made him do it, and that his own wife, which is my grandmother, hadn't had sex with him in 8 years. So that's the reason why he did it. But he told them that he could not go to jail because of what happens to child molesters in jail, and he would kill himself before he would have to go to jail. And then he told them that they had to keep it a secret from my dad because, yeah, my dad was going to kill him. And so my aunt, the person I originally told, she was really heavy into Jesus and God at the time, even though I didn't know because my mom wasn't into that.
Right.
And my mom told me that she gave him a Bible and told him that the only way that they weren't going to tell on him was if he promised to stop and read that Bible every day. So, safe to say, she told me to keep it a secret, and at 6 years old, that's what I did. I didn't want my grandfather to go to jail. I didn't want him to kill himself. I didn't want my dad to go to jail. I didn't want my dad to kill anybody. Like, at 6 years old, like, that's the end of
That's
the
a lot.
world. Like,
Right.
I broke the family up and did all that. I would have had
Right.
that guilt that I did that I killed someone, that I
Right.
sent somebody to jail because I wouldn't have known until I was older at this
Right.
age.
Right.
Like, wow, I didn't have no reason to hold
Right.
all that guilt and take all that blame
Exactly.
when it was them that did that and stuff. So unfortunately, I kept it a secret from my dad. I was still brought around my grandfather for years and years and years to come. The abuse continued for years and years and years to come. And the only reason why it stopped is because in my late teens, he caught a rare lung disease that they didn't even have a cure for out yet. So for me, that's God and his karma.
Yep.
And basically his lungs were hardening day by day. So he had to sit confined in a chair with the oxygen tank until he ended up passing away.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So I don't know if you want to ask any questions. Cause I know the last interview we did, he wasn't able to jump in and ask questions and stuff because we were going. So,
I think that's the part that, resembles so much to me is that as victims, we feel like we have to be the ones to protect the predator. I felt the same way. I felt gross. I felt, like I didn't understand.
How old were you?
I was about 5.
Okay. Yeah.
And I want to say
when you told or when it started?
I was between 4 and 6 when he was doing it.
Okay.
And we were taken from my mom at about 6. I was about 6, and my brother was like he was a baby. So I would say from 4 to 6 years old, between that time frame, I don't know if it was for the whole 2 years or half, but that's when, I began to, kind of get on top of him. He didn't never stop me. I didn't know they were doing stuff in the bed with me in the bed. So I'm just doing what I seen my mom do. Instead of him being the adult, like, no, you don't do that. You don't touch people here. You don't do this. He did it. He allowed it. And he continued to do it. And so, time and time went on. He was my babysitter. My mom is at work, and that's who I'm with. I'm the only child at this time. My brother wasn't even born yet when it started. And so to leave that situation and tell my family and tell my mom, and then for her to have him arrested, and then for her to drop the charges, and then to go to foster care, and then something like that happens again to me from another person, it was just like, okay, let's get this over with. It just became to be the norm. Like every guy that came around me, I just began to say, okay, let's do this. Get it over with so I can be done with it, so I can stop feeling this way. And I didn't really realize that till I became, until I became adult, that's why I felt, nervous around men, or, nervous around adult men, if that makes sense. So it really was, even though the person in foster care was he was like a couple years older than me. He wasn't even like an adult, but for whatever reason, when I would get around men specifically, I would be nervous. I
Right.
remember when my cousin, when we went with my cousin, and she initially adopted us. The first time I was left with him, I just was just like, okay, what is he gonna do? I just was on guard. And it's sad because people don't understand that children that go through this trauma, they always have, an inkling of that trauma in their life. The way I talk to my children, like you said, having a conversations with your daughter, having conversations, explaining to them like, no, you cannot go to other people's house. I don't know what they do in their house, but I know what happens in my house. And, they don't really understand that. And unfortunately, and it's a blessing and it's like a gift and a curse, because of the trauma that we dealt with, we tend to be always, on point, try to always, watch people, we try to explain stuff to our kids. And then we have those friends that, are like, what's the big deal? Why can't they come and stay with me? Or why can't, my kids do this? And well, why can't your kids do this and do that? But they don't understand it because they don't come from where we come from. And they haven't experienced the trauma that we've experienced. So I think it's very hard to sometimes explain that to people that haven't walked that walk.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I was gonna say too, when you were saying that, it reminded me of, I'm not only that parent that tells my own child, I'm that parent that tells other children.
Yes.
So I'm the parent that I'm wondering why in my apartment complex it's 10 kids running around but no parents out.
Right.
Like, I don't feel comfortable being in my house with the door closed, the windows closed, and my kids like way over there. So I'm the parent that's outside with all them 10 kids.
Exactly.
And I get to, talking to them. Like, when I'm leaving, I'm like, don't talk to strangers. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking to my daughter's friends like, why your shorts so short? You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no longer ones. Like, like I really am that parent. And, I probably step on toes, sometimes, I don't know, but I think about that. And even how you said, going through it, you're able to bring awareness. I think to myself, I don't want to discredit anybody's job because everybody, there's so many good jobs. But when I think about myself and think about what job would I love? Like, what better job for me in my eyes to help children that are being abused? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like the best thing for me. Like, children being abused is honestly like the worst thing that I could think of. Things like, cancer, things like that. Like, that's things that like happened, that's out of your control. But abuse, like, that's something that somebody's doing that could be in control. My situation could have been controlled if my mother had did a number of things. Okay. So what she did was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. I wanted to say that, yes, I found out later on that her and her sisters were molested when they were children by their grandfather, which is their dad, who's the child molester's dad. And they told their dad, which is the child molester who abused me when they were younger. And their dad told them to keep it a secret, and their abuse continued. So what my mom did to me was a pattern, was a generational curse, that's been passed down. But that's what we're here for. Like, why would you not want to break it? Like, that's, and that's why, we talk about that later. I went on the On the Fix My Life show with my mom because I had a real strained relationship with her because growing up, I tried to protect her and her family. When her father died, I thought that my pain would go away. I thought that I would finally, feel free and stop being depressed and insecure and feeling ugly and not being able to be around men, without looking at them in their face or feeling nervous, uncomfortable. But no, when her father passed away, my grandfather, I still felt all those feelings. And it wasn't until I told my dad, which was a whole 8 years later, that I had an immediate weight lifted off my shoulders. Like, I felt like my whole life was just all this pressure and it was just like hard. And the moment I told him, like, it was just like gone. It was just like, and I was like, whoa, like, what is this feeling? Like, it's crazy. So that's why I started the Tell Somebody Foundation, to bring awareness, to help children, to educate parents, to educate the parents who not only say, well, what is wrong with,
Right.
my kids, or, that don't
Right.
have the knowledge, and also to educate the parents like my mother who
Yep.
weren't able to break their generational cycle, and let them know that's what it's time for. And then
Right.
to help other survivors know that it's time to speak up and tell somebody, and that your whole life you'll be searching, you'll
Yep.
be into drugs, alcohol, sex, feeling
Yep.
like sex is all you have to offer, giving
Right.
yourself to men that don't love you because you don't
Right.
even love yourself. You ain't got no
Exactly.
self-esteem. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You're going through depression, anxiety. On my Facebook page, facebook.com/it's time to tell somebody, every day I share a different survivor's story.
Yes.
And so the first year that I started Tell Somebody, I used my platform to just tell my story. And I traveled to LA and different places, meeting different celebrities, trying to, find the right person to help me get this off the ground.
Right.
And I built a platform up. And then one day somebody sent me a picture of them holding a sign that said, tell somebody, and they included their story. So I was like, this is different. This is new. Like, I'm always posting mine. Okay, like, let me just post theirs.
Right.
So then I posted theirs. And then the next day I had 10 more people with pictures that said, tell somebody in their story. And I was like, whoa, like, this whole time I'm thinking I'm just supposed to share my story. And now here it is that it's like, okay, God's like, no, like, this platform is for everybody. And I'm like, okay, I didn't even know it, but let's go,
Yes.
So every day for the last 3-4 years, I've been posting a different survivor story. So growing up, because I didn't know God, I used to always cuss God out and, be like, F you, God. Like, why is my life so messed up?
Yep.
Everybody else got this good life, good parents, good grandparents. Ain't nobody else getting abused. Not knowing a lot of people were being abused, but ain't nobody was talking about it.
Exactly.
So in my family, my mother was molested by her grandfather. My father was molested by a white pastor in Louisiana. And he told me that he didn't tell because back then you didn't talk about that type of thing down south, and you didn't accuse a white man of doing something like that. My older brother was molested by 2 female babysitters. And I recently found out, after sharing my story with my father, that my younger brother, who's 4 years younger than me, was also molested by my grandfather, the same man who abused me. So that's why I advocate so much for Tell Somebody. And I get a little frustrated when people say, well, why do I got to tell? Why do I need to tell somebody? Because had something been done, had my situation been controlled, my younger brother wouldn't have been molested. Growing up, I thought it was just me. So I built like this shell, like, all right, I was molested. I'm going to take it for what it was, and I'm going to still try to go through life. But then to find out that it also happened to my little brother, that broke my heart. You know what I'm saying? That actually made me more angrier than it was that I was abused. I was so angry at my mother and her sisters because they knew. Because my younger brother, even though it took him 20 years to tell my dad, like it took me, he told my dad. And when I talked to my brother told me when he was about 10, he also told my aunt, the same aunt that I told when I was 6, when he was visiting her in Texas, because he felt safe and comfortable. So what it is too, when I look back, what is it about my aunt that me and my younger brother were so comfortable with, that we shared this secret with her that we didn't share with our own mother or my dad? So again, that's why I advocate having this strong relationship with your children and talking to them about any and everything, because I would hate for something like that to be happening to my child and they don't tell me, and they go through it for their whole childhood because they didn't feel comfortable telling me, or the person they did tell didn't do anything about it.
And that's the sad part, and I think that, like you said, when it comes to the generational curses, it's just, people don't understand how much, people are holding in. And some people go to their graves with this stuff. And, it's a lot. It's tough. Everybody don't have the strength that me and you have. And, like you said, it took us a while to get to this point.
It did.
And I commend you. I'm so proud of you. And I just think you are amazing. And you are beautiful,
Thank you.
Nobody tell you otherwise. And
Thank you.
Please keep on helping people. I think, what you're doing is amazing. Tell Somebody is so amazing. And I'm going to be sending you a picture like I promised you I would. And I mean, it's just amazing. I think that, they prey on kids that are not being looked at. They prey on kids that, they know that nobody's looking at them, watching them, foster kids, kids that parents is on drugs, whatever they watch and they pray and they really like, I think they get fixated on those kids. And the guy that was in the foster care program with us, I know that I wasn't the only girl he did that to, because the foster parent had like 10 kids.
Right.
So, you imagine how many kids came in and out of that place and he was messing with, he was touching, but I was scared. Like you said, you don't feel comfortable to tell anybody because they tell you stuff that makes you think that you're going to get in trouble, or I'm gonna get sent back to another foster program, or, me and my brother gonna be split up, whatever they say, that's what we hone in on. And we just kind of be like, okay, well, we ain't gonna say nothing. And, truthfully, I don't know if that lady would have even done anything. That's her grandson. We were just the foster kids.
Right.
So,
right.
It'd be stuff like that that's heartbreaking. So every time I hear about a foster kid, or I hear about a child being touched and stuff like that, it just breaks my heart. I've been in the mental health field for 17 years. And, I see it all. I see all the populations. I see the kids that's been touched. I see the kids that, make their siblings touch each other. I've seen it all. And sometimes the cases are too close to home for me. Sometimes I have to, send a referral to another company, or send a referral to another. When I was in the field, I had to send that client, with somebody else because it was too close.
Wow.
It was too touchy, and you wish you had that support that we have now. We wish we had that back then. Like
right.
you said, a lot of stuff would have been different if I had that, a mentor or a counselor or somebody to really talk to me that I could relate to. They're coming to pick me up. They don't look nothing like me. These are, Caucasian women that's in their mid 40s picking me up. They don't know nothing about my life. They don't know nothing about my struggle. They just looking at, oh, poor little, this little girl that doesn't have her parents. And I didn't really feel comfortable enough to talk to them. But if I really had, someone to really talk to that looked like me, or that I could relate to, like I was able to relate to kids that I talked to, I think I probably would have told sooner,
Right.
So, I think what you're doing is amazing. Tell somebody. I can't wait to get that book. I gotta, get that book so I can really talk to my girls about it again. I constantly talk to them about that. Have anybody touched you? Did you touch anybody private areas? Has anybody said anything inappropriate to you? I ask them every week at school, when they go away for the weekend, when they with their dad, anything. I'm like, I don't care who it is.
Right. No, definitely. And, having a dad that was Black, especially from down South Louisiana, he was raised where if they did something wrong, they would have to go outside and pick a.
Uh-oh, we lost her. Hold on, guys. Let me get her back on. There we go. Hey, you back?
I can't. Oh, there you are. Okay. It went out for a second.
He said he would get a switch, or
look at the devil trying to hate. When my dad used to get in trouble back in the day, he used to have to go get a whip in Louisiana. Like he used to have to get a tree branch, and my grandma used to whip him with it. And so like he was into the belt whippings, and my mom was just like into, if you do something bad, you're gonna time out. So like they disciplined us completely different. My dad used to whip us with the belt and stuff, when my mom used to not. And so when my mom used to be friendly with us, my dad used to always tell her, you can't be their parent and their friend. You got to choose one, because if you're their friend, then they're going to disrespect you. So you have to be the parent. So I think that's why especially I had my daughter, I decided to be the parent and the friend, even though my dad said you can't be both, because that's probably why I didn't tell my dad growing up, because maybe I also didn't feel like, he was that friend that I could confide into. I just looked at him as like that parent that was always, scolding and like getting mad and stuff like that. But that's just basically what it's about, is just speaking up and telling someone, controlling your situation. My mom had a number of things she could have did. If she didn't want to call the police and didn't want to tell my dad, she could have just kept us from going to my grandfather's house. That's one thing. Or just having him come around when there's a lot of people around, like a group function or something like that. Or you know, just it's just like a lot of things that she could have did that she didn't do.
Right.
And one of those things was ask questions. I
Right.
asked my daughter 1,000,010 questions too when she
Yes.
comes home from school. Like, what happened at school today?
Right.
What you eat? Who you was eating with? Like, did anything happen? Like, I be asking her all kind of things. Like, I'm all in her business. And you would think, for real, I be all in her business. I be giving her advice too. Like, oh girl, don't be letting him talk to you like that, or you know, don't be girl. Like, you know, and I teach my daughter all kind of things and stuff, and
Yes.
just everything my parents didn't teach me. And growing up,
Exactly.
you thought that you know, having a lot of friends was good, but as you
Right.
grow up and you see those different friends backstab you, you realize
Yes.
just a few close, genuine ones. So I be
Right.
telling my daughter all that now, like, you know, at the age
Me
of 5,
too.
6, 7, growing up and stuff. Like, girl, don't be letting Anna get over on you like that. Don't let her use you like
Exactly.
that. Like,
Exactly.
but
Exactly. I have the same conversations. They be looking at me like, mommy, like,
I'm
what's the
like, girl,
big
I'm putting
deal?
you up on game. Okay. You ain't gonna know it now, but you gonna thank me later. Okay. So
Exactly.
but that's what my mom never did. And I just can't get over that. Even though me and my
Right.
mom are rekindling our relationship right now and
Yes.
rebuilding, the fact that after she sent me back with him, you know, when she wasn't around, when she wasn't able to supervise it, when she knew it was another spend the night visit, you know,
Right.
anything. When I came back home, she never said like,
Did he do anything? Right.
not even like, well, what'd you guys do? What games did you guys play? What'd you eat? She didn't ask nothing. And so it's hard. You go through so many emotions as an adult because you don't want to think, oh, my mother knew I was being abused and let me
Right.
be abused. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But it's
Right.
like, why didn't you ask
Right.
questions? Did you not want to know if it was continuing?
He did it. It was
Did you
trauma for
not
her.
care if it was
Right.
continuing? And
Right.
I do want to say this too, because they talk about on the show, my family tries to make it seem like I'm a extortionist, I'm a blackmailer. Okay. So my grandfather was, and growing up, I read that a average child molester was a middle-aged white man, college educated, had some money, religious. That was everything but religious was my grandfather. So
Right.
yeah, my grandfather had a lot of money. He was an insurance agent. And my dad used to tell me that, like, my grandfather would say, like, yeah, if you could find me somebody that, you know, wants insurance, I'll give you like $3,000 per person. So my grandfather had a lot of money. Not only did he have like his main house, but he had, like I said, a little lake house over here, another little lake house over here. At the lake house, he also had a boat, you know what I'm saying, that had to be on the storage. He was only at that lake house like 2 times a year, but it's still, you know, like he had a lot. Every time he had a brand new car, he'd drive it for a couple months and then give it to one of his daughters. So growing up, he basically used his money.
Yeah.
Right after I told at age 6, at age 7, we moved to another city, and my grandfather gave my mom $50,000 cash for the down deposit. And before my dad knew I was abused, my dad used to always tell me, yeah, you know, when we first moved here, your grandfather gave your mom $50,000 cash, and he asked her, did she need some more? He was like, he got a lot of money. And so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, like I said, at 6, 7, 8, you don't know what that
Right.
means. Like, my grandfather got all this money and stuff
Right.
like that. And it
Right.
wasn't until I got older that I'm like, wow, like, were they being bribed? You
Yeah, they
know,
were.
was that $50,000 a bribe to not
Yep.
tell, or
Yep.
was that, you know what I'm saying, $50,000 to, hey, well, I'm gonna keep sending my daughter over there, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And my
Right.
dad had got me thinking that way after I told him what happened, because it's like, yeah, my aunt and um both my aunts and my mom, like, they got houses and cars and all these things from my grandfather. And when
Wow.
he died, I thought that he was going to leave me some money in his will, and he didn't leave me anything. And even though I thought that if he did leave me some money, it would make me feel better, it's not that it made me feel better, but it's kind of like, wow, like, I kept this secret for you, this nasty secret. Like, you abused me, you molested me, like, you like broke me, hurt me, whatever. And you
Right.
did to my brother. And it's like, you got all this money, you paying all these people, like, and yeah, he didn't leave me anything. It was just like an extra slap in the face. You know, my mom gave me a little bit of money, but later on after that, you know, I started the Tell Somebody Foundation. And my
Right.
dad was like, well, the first people you should message is your grandma and your aunts,
Right.
because they're still alive. They still got his money, and they allowed you to be molested for all those years and your younger brother. So now you want to take what happened to you and do something positive by making a children's book and helping
Exactly.
children and having a
Yes.
memoir and helping other
Tell them.
people. So the first people that should want to donate to your foundation
Right.
would be
Honey.
them, you know? So I agreed with him. I didn't know how much to ask them for. He messaged and said that you should give us $25,000 each. So I guess they took that as, oh, that's blackmail and extortion. But the thing was, my grandfather was already dead. He couldn't go to jail, and the statute of limitations is 7 years. So
Right.
it wasn't blackmail, because even if I would have told the police, which I later did, none of them can be held accountable. I've made a police report because my dad told me that if I tell somebody, I can't tell other people to go tell somebody if I ain't fully told somebody.
Right.
So he told me I had to go to the police station, even though my grandfather was dead, and write and tell them what happened to me. So I told him about my grandfather. I told him about my mom and my 2 aunts and grandma. They knew about it. They're all still alive. But yeah, none of them could be held accountable. So that money wasn't a blackmail. It was just a really so that's how that went, and they discussed that. But that's what I'm here for, is to help people, to help tell somebody. So yes, this is my children's book, and it's on Amazon.
Y'all go get that book.
You're so funny.
Go get that book. Look, y'all that got kids, got nieces, nephews, y'all better go get that book.
That's so funny. So I just explained to kids that these are their private areas, and that people shouldn't touch you there and you shouldn't touch them there.
Right.
And I include the mouth. A lot of people don't even know that the mouth is a private part. And people even write me and be like, well, why'd you put that the mouth was a private part? Now I got to explain to my daughter and it's like, okay, but do you want somebody putting something in your daughter's mouth?
Exactly.
Okay, that's why the mouth is a private part. Next.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, and then, and then I give different scenarios. Like if you're in the shower, no one should be looking at you, If you're at a friend's house spending the night, you're at a cousin's house, anywhere, you wake up, someone's touching you, friend, uncle, it doesn't matter who it is. They're not supposed to be touching you. If you're getting dressed, nobody's supposed to just be standing there watching you, and I just give like a lot of examples, and and then if somebody always asks you to sit on their lap when no one's around, you need to tell somebody. And it's like, I've had people tell me, oh, well, you're not putting like enough scenarios. Well, you listen, I could make this book 500 pages if I could, because there are a million scenarios. It's a million scenarios. But the basics, because this is called Tell Somebody the Basics. The basics are that the mouth, the chest, the front where you go to the bathroom, and the back are your private areas, and no one's supposed to touch you there. So it doesn't matter how many situations you get into. If you know the basics and no one's supposed to touch you there, then you're going to tell them no. So when my grandfather touched me the first time, when he tickled me the first time in my private area, if I would have said, hey, my mom and dad told me you're not supposed to touch me there, he would have stopped. Especially if he would have known my dad educated me and told me ain't nobody supposed to touch me there. And they said that the average child molester, I Googled it, they said they interviewed some child molesters in jail. They said the average child molester molests anywhere from 50 to 250 kids before they die. And that's because nobody tells. They asked the child molesters, well, how do you keep molesting all these kids? Because nobody tells. What? So yes, my grandfather molested me. My grandfather molested my younger brother. My mom and my aunts recently told me that they vaguely remember their dad, my grandfather, molesting them when they were children.
God. So he molested his own kids and his grandkids.
Right.
Oh
and my mom told me another story that when she was 5, she lived in Australia, and she had a friend that came over, and she vaguely remembers her dad touching her friend who was 5, and then they moved from Australia to the United States. So he probably been molesting. And when I talked to my grandmother about it before she got dementia, she told me that she wished that my grandfather or me would have told her before he died what he did. But she told me that he was molested by a man when he was younger. So again, another generational curse. They say that 90% or 95% of child molesters were molested when they were children.
Yep.
So it's like, if you got so many things to do after being abused, and breaking free and helping others, you know, like that's the option. That's the way to go. So
it is. And that's why I'm here today. I mean, I was doing the same thing. Why me? Why God? You know, I don't understand. Why don't I have my parents? And then here we are. This, you know, now with the book, it was just been like a great amount of support, you know, and, you know, especially this topic alone, you know, it's just a piece of the book, you know, for you to have a whole book specifically talking about this particular situation, I think is amazing. It's really needed. Every bookstore needs to have that book, because every community, every population, people that think they rich and they don't got to deal with this is not true. People that think they poor and they don't got to deal with this is not true. Every generation, every ethnicity has molesters, have people that prey on children. Is not this, you know what I'm saying? People act like it's just, you know, oh, black people only deal with this, or white people only deal with this. No, we all dealing with it.
Right.
So I think, like you said, just telling somebody is like the most important part.
It just hurts my feelings, because like even right now, as we're talking and doing this interview, there's children being abused. Like right now, you know, children that need help, children that don't even know that it's okay to tell somebody.
Exactly.
Growing up, they had DARE that came to my school, told me not to do drugs. They had sex ed in 5th grade for, you know, 2 weeks, explaining the private areas and how to get pregnant, how to use protection. But they never said that no one's supposed to be touching you there, not your family members. So that's what I always feel like is, wow, like if I would have told my mom at 6 and they told me to keep it a secret, if I would have went to school at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and somebody would have been there with a book or a workshop or just anything, you know, anything for a couple seconds. Just look, ain't nobody supposed to be touching you there. If somebody do, you need to tell somebody it's not okay. Then I would have known that it was wrong. But because my grandfather told me it was okay, because my mother told me that it was okay, you know, and to keep it a secret, I thought, okay, keeping the secret and going through the abuse and letting it continue is okay. And it wasn't. And so that's why, again, I get frustrated when I go to schools with my children's book, because I go to schools and tell the principals, like, can I come into your school and read this book? You know, and some schools will say, yeah, you can. And I've done assemblies where I've been able to put this book on a projector and talk to 600 kids in an hour. And then there's other schools that say, oh no, I'm sorry. You know, we already have something like this. No, you don't. You're lying. I know you don't. I know you don't. And or we'll get back to you, and they never get back to me, because it's a taboo topic, because it's something that I don't know, people just, I don't know. It's crazy to me how many children get abused and how nobody's ever said, well, let's send somebody into the schools like DARE to let them know it's not okay. And I think that's because probably the foster systems and the child workers are going to be overwhelmed because they're already overwhelmed with people not in schools telling them to tell somebody. So maybe they just know that they wouldn't be able to handle it. I don't know, but
I agree. I agree. I mean, even just right now, we're in the middle of COVID. You know, they are asking mental health providers to come into schools to help teachers deal with all the, you know, behaviors. So imagine how many children have been touched during COVID, that's been home, that their safe haven, the only safe haven they have is going to school half of the day. You know what I'm saying? Now these kids have been at home all day with their molesters. They've been at home all day with someone, you know, abusing them physically, mentally, you know, on all levels. And people don't understand that. You know, when I first told my adopted mom, which was, it had to be like maybe like 7, 8 years ago, I told her about my cousin trying to come on to me. And she was like, why you never told me? And I'm like, you weren't gonna do nothing. You know, like, you told me to go back to a man that beat me. So why would you do anything differently with my cousin? You know what I'm saying? Why would you don't feel comfortable? I already knew not to tell her nothing. I already knew that she wasn't, you know, she protected me when it came to moving forward. Like, you can't stay in nobody's house and stuff. But it was more so when it came to control and, not wanting nobody to touch me. But she never asked me, were you was in foster care? Did anybody touch you? Or do you want to talk about anything? Or I think you need to go to therapy or anything of that sort. You thought I had a perfect life because now I'm taken away from my parents and I'm in foster care with you. That doesn't fix it. It's still there. The trauma's still there. I never dealt with it. And then now you're an adult. And then as an adult, you begin to say, let me unlayer these things. Or you choose to say, let me unlayer these things and let me work on me and let me be healthy mentally, spiritually, even financially. Because if you're depressed and you got all these things on you, you can't even go make money. Some people stay in the bed all day because they're depressed, they're hurt. They don't know how to explain their pain. And a lot of times, like you said, we're coping. So we just keep on tackling on everything on the back. And we keep on living through life and we tackle something else on our back. And you wonder why people having heart attacks at 50, 40, because they internalizing all this pain, all this stuff that they've endured as children, as adults, as young adults. And it's time to stop. It's time to tell somebody.
It is. And, on the Iyanla show, Iyanla asked my mom, she said, well, when did you learn like the extent of Aleesha's abuse? When did you learn about everything that happened? And my mom said, well, I guess when I read her memoir. Well, girl,
same
why is it that you just now hearing and finding that out when you had all these years to ask me and find out, But my mom never worked through her traumas. Did she ever get justice for her abuse? No. Did her parents or grandparents ever apologize to her? No. Did she go to therapy? No. And so it's like, it's just a curse that needs to be broken and a secret that needs to be swept from underneath the rug. And people, when they can't talk about it because their family told them to keep it a secret or whoever told them to keep secret, think that they're alone. And nobody's out here advocating that it's okay to tell somebody that that's how you heal, because you're not the only one. And that's why I love sharing stories every single day, because it lets other people know you're not the only one, and you're not the only one that feels still disgusting and, has those memories. But the shame and guilt is not for you to carry anymore. But you won't know that until you tell and get that secret up off your chest.
Yes. Tell somebody. Y'all get them books. Tell them how they can order your books.
You can go on Amazon, or you can go on tellsomebodytoday.org and it will take you to Amazon. But yes, Tell Somebody the Basics, the children's book, and my memoir, In Silenced Abuse.
Yes. I'm so proud of you. You keep doing your thing.
Thank you
for sharing your story tonight on Women Supporting Women Wednesday. I know we got deep, but what are you doing for self-care? What are you doing for yourself? What are you doing to pour back into Aleesha?
Yeah, I know. Because it's a lot too when you do this work, like, just even not only sharing your story day after day, but also now getting other people's stories. Like, it is a lot. So I mean, just a little me time. I like to go outside on my patio and just kind of like, get away from everyone. Like, y'all watch the kids. I need my little alone time for a little bit. I like to just sit in peace. And I actually talk to God a lot. I talk out loud and I talk to God, and I just be talking about, God. And then I even come up with some good ideas. Like, that's a good idea. I'm about to do that. And I just be like, just taking some self-care for me. It's probably a lot more self-care that we could be doing. Especially when people tell me to take breaks. When I was on the Iyanla show, she told me to take a break for a little bit because I had just been like going so full force. So I took like an 8-month break. And like the first month or two, I felt so guilty because I was so used to posting things. And I felt like now that I'm not doing it anymore, now I'm not helping people. I'm not helping survivors. I'm not helping bring awareness. But after the next month or two, when I started spending more time with my family, I was like, okay. So I used to have my movement here and then my family here, but now I got my family here and my movement right underneath it. So I needed that little break to like reshift and stuff. But I'm still doing it every day. And
That's
Not gonna
good.
stop. Yeah.
Yeah, don't stop. Don't stop taking care of yourself, taking care of your daughter, talking to your daughter. My therapist just asked me last week. She was like, it sounds like this book has resurfaced some trauma. And I said, at first I was like, no. And then I was like, yeah, it has. And so I didn't even realize it till I talked to her. And she was like, some of the things that you're saying, you wasn't saying before. And she said, it sounds like, now that you're, because people don't realize when you talk about this stuff and when you write this book, you're reliving it every time you talk about it. It get easier to talk about a little bit, but it still don't take the pain away. It still doesn't change the fact of if somebody asks you a certain question, it might bring tears to your eyes, or they ask it this certain way, or they, anything may trigger you. One night I was doing Women Supporting Women Wednesday, but I was doing like a thing on Clubhouse, and I was doing it at 6:00, and then I was doing this at 9. And I got so emotional because a family member was on, and then as soon as I started talking about something, as soon as I started talking about my trauma and my childhood, she got off, and I didn't realize that triggered me, and so I immediately felt abandoned. I immediately went to that place of not having support. I immediately went to that place of not having, the support that you naturally think you're supposed to get from your family. And I began to be upset about it. But now I'm kind of in a place where I'm like, you got to stop looking back. You got to look forward. Everybody that you need is in front of you. Everybody that is supporting you now is who you need. You don't, just because they're your family, that doesn't mean that they're really your family. God has given me friends that has been more supportive to me than my family, and same thing as you, like, a lot of my family didn't know about some of the things that happened to me until they read my book. And some of them have read it and still haven't said anything to me, still haven't said, you know what, Ruth, that happened, but you know what? I'm here. You're not alone. You don't have to feel abandoned. I haven't really gotten that call at all. I released
Wow.
my book 3 months ago. You know what I'm saying? So 3 months, I've released it in December of 2020. We're in April of 2021. So 4 months at the end of the month. And yeah, I'm gonna just sit that there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, I like to talk about that also because
yeah,
a lot of people grow up and don't want to tell somebody because they don't want to be the black sheep of the
yep,
family. They don't want to be the outcast. They don't want to be the
right,
one that broke up their family
yep,
and expose the deep dark secret and how
mm-hmm,
dare you and da da da
yep,
da. But
right. How dare you? Right.
I was just thinking to myself, I came out with my book and started my movement 5 years ago. Okay.
Wow.
My dad died like 2 or 3 weeks after I first started. So I've been like just doing this by myself.
Right.
And I was just thinking about when he died, I buried him in a Tell Somebody shirt. And I was thinking how next month I'm actually going to Texas to speak at an event. And I
Mm.
got my mother's side of the family in Texas. And then I'm going to
Oh wow.
Louisiana to visit my dad's grave. And I got my dad's side of the family in Louisiana. So here I am from California, a whole nother state, about to
Right.
fly to this state, about
Right.
to, be around this family, this family. And
Right.
guess what, girl? Guess what? I don't get along with none of them. Okay.
Exactly.
My mom's
Exactly.
family in Texas, they don't like me. My dad's family in Louisiana, they don't like me for all various kinds of reasons.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, when you're going on your path, everybody's not meant to come with you.
Mm-mm.
Everyone's not ready.
Nope.
A lot of people haven't even dealt with their own
Mm-mm.
traumas and
Mm-mm.
trials
And
and
they not.
tribulations.
Right.
So how are they going to,
Mm-hmm.
my aunt in Texas, is telling me, oh, what happened to me too, so get over it. Girl. Just because
Right.
it
You ain't
happened
doing
to you,
that.
I ain't got to get over nothing.
Exactly.
Okay. Because
Exactly.
even though you try to make it seem like you got over it, you didn't get over it. You just
Nope.
like the rest of the people out here that just feel like if you don't ever talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
then
Keep
I
it on
done
your
dealt
rug.
with it. Then my
Exactly.
my dad's side of the family in Louisiana said that I
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed them and their
Oh
family
yeah.
by burying my dad in a Tell Somebody shirt because number one, that ain't the time and place for it. And number two, he need to be in a 3-piece suit. Well, guess what? He's not. He's in a Tell Somebody
Exactly.
shirt and he walking
Exactly.
around in heaven real proud showing people what he
Exactly.
did made and accomplished. Okay.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
sometimes you not gonna get along with family. And I've been
Right.
ain't got along with family. Like I said,
Right.
it's been 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm at, what I'm doing, the amount of people I'm helping,
Exactly.
who I'm reaching,
Exactly.
I wouldn't trade
Exactly.
that
Right.
for none of that,
Right.
because that's not real.
Right.
And that's why they're not around.
Exactly.
Okay. So I don't
Exactly.
want you to feel like that either. You may not never get a call, Ruth.
Right. It's
You
true.
may not never get a call
Sheesh.
ever. Okay. But you
Right.
got to be okay with that,
Right.
because a lot of
Right.
people ain't dealt with their traumas, and
Right.
they not ready to see it through. When
It's
you
true.
tell somebody, when you expose what happened, you shine a light on the devil.
That's
And
true.
he don't like that. So you
Yeah,
know
he
what he's
don't.
gonna do? He's gonna send little minions and little
Yep.
people to send
Yep.
you off your track and
Yep.
say little comments to you.
It's true. It's so true. But look, but we survived ourselves. Look,
Yeah,
look. I survived
yeah.
and you can too.
Yes,
Look.
yes, yes. When I left Louisiana, what's that? Who calling? Oh, somebody's calling. Sorry, somebody was calling on my phone. I was looking at the
They say,
screen.
girl, you still on that live?
Yeah, girl. Gosh, I hate when somebody do that. 'Cause now you forget what you was about to say. Oh man.
No, but you was talking about how, they try to knock you off your game, but we continue to just, strive through it, push through it.
Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's all good.
I
But
don't know. I
look,
was getting up into. I was getting good to
I know.
myself.
Look, we can talk about this all day. When you have somebody that can relate to your story, and there's a lot of us out there, but a lot of us are quiet. A lot of us are, in our shell. It takes courage, man. I fought days, months, years to really get this out, and I really didn't want to do it. It was almost like a dagger in my back. God was like, "You got to do it." And once I really finally took the leap of faith, I realized how much of a blessing it wasn't. It wasn't about me. It was for other people. And I didn't see that initially. I was just like, God, why do I got to tell my story? Why do I got to do this? Like, what's the big deal? And now I see why. Now I see why you are here. You know what I'm saying? Now I see why I'm here. And we're his vessels. We are the ones that had to carry it, and maybe our parents wasn't strong enough to be able to tell. Maybe they,
Right.
he gave his soldiers that story, and he gave us the tools that we needed to get past this. And he knew we were strong enough to deal with the pain that we endured to be here today. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't be here. So I commend you from a survivor to the next. And you keep telling your story, you keep telling somebody and helping other people to tell somebody. And I just think it's amazing.
Thank you. And you keep
Thank
helping
you for
people
being up here.
also. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, you keep being beautiful, and make sure you
Cheers,
guys,
girl.
yes, cheers. Look, make sure y'all go get that book, and make sure you guys follow her on all social media networks. Tell them where they can follow you at.
_ Queen Leash or Tell Somebody Movement are my Instagram handles, and my Facebook is It's Time to Tell Somebody. Or you can just go to tellsomebody.org, and they got all the Tell Somebody today, because that's my message. It's not tell somebody tomorrow. It's not tell somebody next week. It's not tell somebody next month. It's tell somebody today. And people always say, well, how do I tell? I want to tell my dad, but I want to tell my mom, but it ain't no buts. You're going to go tell your parents right now. Well, how do I tell them? You tell them from the beginning, and you tell them the truth. Just go. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be emotional. You're going to cry. They might cry. It's going to be a lot going on, but it's so worth it on the other side. It's so worth it. I finally feel as an adult right now living in my truth and my power. I have my power back. Something that I never had my whole childhood, my teenage years, my beginning adult years. And I wish that I could have felt this feeling a long time ago. I'm upset that it took me until I was 28, but that's my message, because I'm hopeful that people, that's what I'm saying. And there's people that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s taking it to the grave.
It's true.
Taking it to the grave.
It's true. It's so true.
And you ain't got to do that.
Right. You really don't. Tell somebody. And if that person don't listen, tell somebody else. I think, like you said, you told your aunt and she told you to keep it quiet. So, it's like if we would have known, okay, she ain't listening, so I'm going to tell somebody else. They always ask me on my interviews, what do you want people to take? And the first thing that I say is speak. Speak until somebody hears you. And I say that every time they ask me that. And it's crazy that, your thing is tell somebody. And it's like, we're saying some of the same stuff, and you're on a whole nother side of the world. You know what I'm saying? So it just goes to show you when, divine order, and when things are lined up and when you are doing what you're supposed to do, he'll make a way and he'll create a lane for you that's separate than everybody else's. Your lane, what you created, tell somebody, is different than everybody else. So you keep shining, you keep standing in that, and I think you're amazing.
Thank you. You too. You too.
You have a good night. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining Women Supporting Women Wednesdays on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get notifications. And we will see you next week, same time, same place.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.